Hi everyone, just wanted to do a brief summary of week 7 for you. Last week we talked a bit about um, organizational culture. We went through some of the service delivery strategies, learned about value chain, etc. Lots of stuff covered last week. And I think the discussion about organizational culture was really interesting. I think that we had some great discussion. I think the one thing that I really wanted to uh, kind of bring home the point of is that culture is so important in the organization. I think that when you have an organization that has a poor organizational culture, that's going to be reflective of the morale of the employees. It's going to be reflective of how effective patient care is in that organization, and it's just simply going to be problematic for the organization as a whole. And I think that the other thing that is important about culture, and I know we had talked about this, is that it's a top down approach to culture. You need to have, and I think I said this in the discussion boards, you need to have that tone from the top. So you need to have the folks at the top of your organization, and we talked about this with mission and vision as well. You need to have those folks kind of reflecting that culture, that positive culture, whatever elements of organizational culture that you're trying to push forward. You need to have those folks making sure that is moving forward, and then you need to have uh, all folks within your organization really portraying that culture and sharing that throughout the organization, and that will hopefully bring forward a positive culture. Now, one good example of culture that is important in my work, was always important, is compliance. So we always work to uh, kind of push forward a culture of compliance to make sure that people were aware of compliance rules and regulations, laws, and that's a great example of where you really have to have that tone from the top. You need the people at the top of the organization saying how important compliance is, saying how they are going to back the compliance office, making sure that it's important to follow the rules and regulations, etc. So that's a great example of where setting that tone at the top of the organization that we are going to be compliant, we have a culture of compliance in our organization, and having that filter down through to every employee really kind of sets the tone and culture for an organization. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about obviously your final project's final draft was due this past week, so I'm looking forward to taking a look at them this week and getting those back to you. I'm sure everyone did a great job on your initial draft, so I'm really looking forward to taking a look at them this week. So I do want to go through a few of the quiz questions. The first one I'll mention, I'm going to give you credit for this one because I think it was somewhat confusing in the text because of some of the info that they had provided. But the question was, promotion is used for the following activities. And I do get where they were going with this. It was a question, I'm not going to read all the answers. I apologize, I'm reading off another screen here. I'm at my house here in Pittsburgh. I don't have the ability to print. So the question, like I said, promotions used for the following activities, and there's like 7 different answers, and then they had, so it was the actual answer was A, C, E, and F. So it was positioning, building awareness, reminding, and differentiating. And that's, promotion can be used for those, but some of the other answers they had in there were marketing, building awareness. Building awareness is one of those. There were some other elements that the way it was laid out in the textbook, when they talked about marketing, etc., I can see where it would be confusing. I understand what they were getting at, but their question was quite confusing based on their discussion of promotion in the text. So I will go through and make sure everyone gets credit for that question. I have not done it quite yet, but I will do that. The next question I want to review is two main components of the value chain are product delivery and support. And that was a true-false question. Now the question or the answer to that is false. And they talk about this. This was in chapter 8 of our text, so one of our chapters for this week. And there's actually an exhibit right on page 310 where we're talking about value chain. So the two main components of the value chain are service delivery and support. So it talks about because we're doing the elements of service delivery. So pre-service, point of service, after service, all of the various elements of service delivery, and then the support activities. So, and we talk about this throughout, actually it's more throughout the next chapter, I think, where we talk about the support activities like culture and the various organizational structure activities like the matrix structure or functional structure, etc. So those are more talked about in the next chapter. But so our value chain is going to be through service delivery. So, and that's where we talk through those pre-service, point of service, after service activities, or through support activities. So things like culture or structure or strategic resources like finance or human resources or information technology, etc. So those are our two elements. This particular question, the answer was false. Okay, let's go to the next one. I apologize, I just need to let my computer catch up here. Next question. So this is true, false as well. Branding is a promise of a specific level of quantity and once learned by the customer incorporates a sense of value and a set of expectations. So this is true, false as well, obviously. And the answer to this is false. Branding isn't a quantity. It's really about quality. So, what your brand is really about, and I don't have, there's a whole section on it here in the text, but it's really about, who are you, what do you bring, what quality do you bring? It's all about your brand and what can you bring to the customer. It's not about how many of something you're bringing, because you can bring a whole lot of something really bad to the customer, but it's really about that value that you're bringing to the customer, and how good the service is. What is the quality for that service? So that's why this particular answer was false. So it's not a level of quantity, because like I said, you can bring a whole lot of something really bad. Like for example, hopefully I'm not offending anyone who really likes McDonald's, but you can go to McDonald's and get a whole lot of chicken nuggets, or you can go to a really nice restaurant and get a chicken dish where you get just one of them. So that it's, the brand at that really nice restaurant is probably going to reflect a lot better quality than those chicken nuggets at McDonald's, which are tasty but not very good for you. So, but it's about that brand, which is an important element of our, our process of strategic management. Last one I'll talk about, again, true, false. Organizational culture is defined as the implicit, visible, intrinsic, and formal consciousness of the organization that guides the behavior of individuals. I'm not going to read the rest of the question because there's nothing in that was incorrect. So it's a true, false question, and this is false, but everything that's false is in that first sentence there. So organizational culture, I'm actually going to flip here to the book. So it talks in our book about the definition of organizational culture. Our book tells us organizational culture is defined as the implicit, invisible, intrinsic, and informal consciousness. And the true-false question talks about visible and formal consciousness. And so that's really, as we talked about this past week in the discussion boards, how the culture is really that that underlying, that invisible, informal, implicit. Um, it's your culture. It's really those values, those norms that live within your organization. So, I use compliance as an example, but in compliance, there's either an expectation that the rules are followed, or there's an expectation that you can get away with things. And that's why it's so important that the tone is set, that the rules are followed. So it's same thing where you may have a culture in your organization that it's a very positive, upbeat organization. People work hard, but they enjoy their work. That kind of an organization. Or you may work at a place where the culture is very negative. Maybe people don't enjoy their work. They don't enjoy their jobs. It's not a positive place to work, and a lot of that comes from the culture. So it's really about setting that culture, setting a culture of good work ethic, positive attitude, those types of things. So a lot of that is around culture. And it's not like you write your culture down on a piece of paper like your mission, vision, and values. It's really about that invisible, informal norms and just the norms and values and assumptions of the organization. So that's all I have for this week. Hopefully you had a good week, and remember, week 8 ends on Friday. Your new classes will start on Saturday. I'll do this in writing as well, but I want to wish you all well next term. You have an excellent instructor, Dr. Ferndak, that you'll have next term for finance. I'm sure you'll really enjoy her. She's fabulous, so you'll really enjoy her. And I want to thank everyone for an excellent term this term. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you all on the discussion boards. Thanks so much.